Hello, lady and gentlemen. We have a lady here, and then we also have some gentlemen in already. I can see Deepak, I can see Mohammed, and Caleb. So we are having a special guest here today. We have Mr. Teso Cheve. I don't know if you prefer to be called an engineer. Just, I mean, some people like all the titles, but I couldn't just remember it right now. Or do you want architect Teso Ichebe, right?
I take it fine, trust me.
Yeah, so my name is Abiodun Oke. So I'm the founder of Serial Projects and Supply Jobs Canada Network. The wonderful ladies and gentlemen who are in supply chain professional. They are also foreign trained professionals. They are here in Canada, and we are basically co-mentoring one another, is what I would say, because it's a place for us to actually network. We explore things with each other. We ask questions. It's really, experience is not something that you know you can take for granted when it comes to these type of things. A lot of the times you hear all this catchphrase about networking. When it comes to networking, really, that is really where it makes sense. I mean, having a community of supply chain professionals and project management professionals who have actually had the experience of what we're talking about here in Canada. So that's about Supply Jobs Canada. We are having Teso Isheve here today. He's a project manager, he's an architect, he's an entrepreneur. I remember, yeah. Interesting. We actually met at the University of Winnipeg when Teso was a student there, and that's where we met. Life generally, this is what it is. You never know where you're gonna meet down the road. So that's why I always tell people, whatever you're doing, make sure that you build relationships. Even if you're just going out there and you're just buying maybe whatever, buying a coffee or something, build relationship with whoever you come across with, because you never know when you're gonna meet them down the road. So that's how I met Teso. Yeah, I think Teso will be in a better position to actually introduce himself. All I can tell you is a project manager, is an architect. I also know he's an entrepreneur. Take it away, Teso.
All right. Well, first of all, thank you so much, AB, for giving me this platform to share on project management. For those of you that don't know, AB has been a fantastic guy right from day one. Even at the University of Winnipeg, one thing he didn't mention was the fact that he was actually there to, provide guidance in terms of, providing information on job seekers, because we were just graduating and we needed the job. So he was there to, point us in the right direction. And he did an amazing job because almost all of us got jobs. So kudos to that, AB. And once again, for opening this platform to me. So my name's Teso, and as AB said, I'm an architect. I'm a project manager. And at the moment, I have a practice called Taste Design Incorporated. And we've been providing services in Winnipeg for the last 2 years. And right now we're doing that in Calgary. Glory to God. So we provide primarily architectural design services and also project management, and most recently property inspections. And it's been a fantastic ride. So that's me in a nutshell. And thanks once again for tuning in.
Okay, thanks for the introduction. So I know you were given a little bit about yourself in terms of your profession, but I'm just interested and curious what you're working on right now, maybe on a personal level.
Okay, thank you. At the moment, we have been providing services in design and also for project management, but most recently, we've been trying to produce, or rather create, courses which can help the general public in specific areas like project management and design. And we have some courses at our site, the Academy, Taste Academy is called. We also have that on Udemy. So you just, for those who are tuned in right now who would want to learn more about project management, we have some courses that are available to you.
Okay.
In addition to that, we're still working on some more courses in regards to making project management understandable for all. So there's some elaborate courses in the pipelines. Also, we have leadership courses in the pipeline and also design courses. So please stay tuned.
Okay. So if you actually Tesla is gonna offer some discount on this course. So if you can wait till the end of the course, we'll be providing you more details about that. But for now, let's just kind of stay focused, and then the way I will kind of take this session here is, we don't have any PowerPoint and all that. We just want to make this a kind of a networking, relationship building kind of a thing. So you're being a project manager now in Canada, because I know you were here in Winnipeg before you moved. Roughly about 5 years thereabout. Is it
Yes.
more than that?
Yeah, it's about 10 years, but project management for me started as far back as university. When I started, I was an architectural student studying for my first degree. There was so much that was being thrown at us. And for those who are tuned in, who are architects, I'm sure you completely understand. There was this course called Design Studio, which kept us late night. And at the time when I was studying, we didn't have computers to create our designs and whatnot. So we spent late hours on a table drawing, and that had an impact on our backs, But it was an interesting experience because it was not just design studio which was thrown at us. We had building construction to deal with, structures and whatnot, and we needed to make sure that we were well organized. And that meant having a plan, having a schedule, because if we didn't have that, then we probably would find ourselves in the wrong place. But that allowed me to, be very well organized at an early stage. And that practice stayed with me throughout my degree and also while studying my master's and in practice. And I remember when I graduated from Newcastle, the first job I had was a volunteer position, and it was working as an architectural assistant. But that role made me see the interest, the relevance of project management. And it sent me to the southwest of England, on the other side of the country, where I worked as a project manager and as an architectural technician. And that was where practice started. So it's about 10 years now, about 10 years.
Great. 10 years is a lot in terms of experience, especially as a project manager. So definitely you would have a lot to share with us today. I mean, that'll be very interesting. So some of the, for us, project management is very broad, actually. Project management is kind of a function that is applicable in almost any industry. But I guess because we're talking about the construction industry today, can you kind of give us insight into what do you actually consider to be the perspective of a project management function in the construction industry?
Yeah, that's a powerful question there, AB. Powerful. At the end of the day, I think you're right that project management can be looked at from a very general perspective. Project management essentially would be the management of a specific project goal within a specific period of time. I think that's the basic perception that many people have. But from a project manager's perspective, I think it's the realization of project objectives, project goals, while managing human and financial resources and paying attention to fluctuating constraints like scope, budget, and time. And that is very, very essential when you're thinking about the construction environment. And many a times you expect that the project management definition should remain the same across industries, and it should. That is the way it should be. But many project managers take that for granted. The fact that the project management profession is looked at as being a generalist one. And that can cause some problems sometimes. It's like having a doctor who's spent a significant time, working in obstetrics, and then one day decides that she wants to work as a cardiologist. It doesn't necessarily work. And I've been very, very pained when I've seen project managers who have spent 10, 12 years in construction, and then all of a sudden they wake up in the morning and say that they want to move into IT or to economics and finance. And for me, I find that a little bit strange. I think that there's something about remaining in a niche. In today's world, we promote niches, which is specific groups, specialists, and that makes a huge difference. And I am definitely a proponent of having people work in a specific field for a long time. I'm not saying that change is not good. Change is good. You know, some people have moved into different industries and have done well. But at the same time, I think it's good to have people focus on a specific area, because that way you're able to develop your craft. And you're also able to get a significant amount of clientele coming to look for you. Because if you're good at what you do, you will definitely get people coming looking for you. So I think it's good to stick to one industry. It might be hard, but I'm sure that if you persevere, you'll find yourself on the other side.
Yeah,
so I think
that's
generally,
an
that way.
okay.
I think project management should definitely be something that will inspire us to focus on a particular path, because employers, they don't necessarily employ generalists. They want a project manager who's spent time in a specific area. So even in that regard, you might find it challenging to get a job. So I think it's good that we, as project managers, focus on a specific area.
Great. I like the fact that you actually pivoted on what you were talking about there, and then you went into the job search perspectives, because a lot of people that are in our network actually are just trying to kind of navigate this industry to work in their profession, which probably some of them are also project managers from their own country, and they are still trying to kind of figure it out here in Canada. So I really appreciate that pivot there, because what I've also observed in the industry is that a lot of people, when they come here, they tend to go chase every other job opportunity out there, which, it's a strategy, right? It's a strategy. But I've seen that it is not really an effective strategy, especially if you're trying to get a job through your network. You won't just be chasing everybody. You have to be very, very focused. Focus on a niche where you have a strength. So I really appreciate that you brought that up. So there's some themes or some recent happenings in the industries where we talk about the earth depleting its ozone layer just because of so many pollution going on, through the industry, which I don't really know if construction industry actually, in terms of their carbon footprint, if there is something of that nature, but I know in oil and gas for sure, because I worked in the oil and gas. But for construction industry, I would like to kind of like to know how, from a project manager's perspective, how you look at sustainability, in terms of the construction industry. What's your own perspectives about it?
Okay, well, thank you for that question. Sustainability definitely applies to the construction industry. It applies to construction management and project management, basically. And the United Nations provides a definition for sustainable development as being development of our environment to cater to the needs of the present generation while not compromising the future generations. And you clearly see that in the construction industry when you're considering special groups like architects, mechanical engineers, electrical engineers, HVAC specialists, because those people are working around the clock to ensure that sustainable design is being integrated. And being an architect, I've seen myself many times, creating designs where sustainable elements are being brought in. It's become a normal way of life, to be honest, but not so much so in the circle of project management. I think project managers are still trying to be part of this conversation, which has been taking place for the last 20, 25 years. And I think it's something that needs to be addressed. And I'm talking about project managers within the construction industry. So, yeah.
But can you give some examples? Because, when we talk about this issue of sustainability, it tends to be kind of theoretical. But can you actually provide some examples of where these issues of sustainability actually impact how a project manager kind of approach, their work, maybe in the construction industry, for example.
Yes, I totally agree. In terms of sustainability, when you're looking at it from a project management perspective in construction, it's essentially about process, and as I said before, when it comes down to a design, from a design standpoint, you can look at integrating things like special types of windows into into construction, making sure that you are creating a regular space which optimizes energy efficiency. Introducing things like photovoltaic panels onto a building in order to cut down on energy. Those are just simple things that can make a difference in terms of cutting down CO2 emissions and also promoting sustainability. And that's mostly from a design perspective. From a project management perspective, you would be looking towards planning, monitoring, and controlling the environmental aspects, the social aspects, the economical aspects of a project. And that again is down to the process. And I think it's something that we all must pay attention to. As I said earlier on, project managers are still getting to be part of this conversation. But there are three principles that I think we need to pay attention to when it comes down to sustainability in the construction industry from the standpoint of a project manager. And those three principles are like managerial control, which is monitoring and controlling the activities. In today's time, there's so many project managers that are very passive, who don't pay attention to some of the details that are thrown before them. And that can have a huge impact on the outcome of the project. Paying attention to the kind of materials, the estimated time of arrival, and all those things. Those are things that are pertinent to the project goals, and objectives and whatnot. And if you don't pay attention to that, it can have negative repercussions. A second thing is risk response. As cliche as it might sound, risk response plans are very important. And if you don't, look at that very closely, it can have an impact. Pragmatic examples would be, contractual litigations, because obviously when you're on site, sometimes you find yourself in a position where you're having problems with some stakeholders, and the project manager needs to be well positioned to be able to address that. Also, scope creep, which is the client requirements. Going beyond the client requirements can also have an impact, and you need to be ready to ensure that you mitigate that. Things like design drawings, architectural drawings, not having drawings that reflect what is actually on the site, or having those drawings come in late from the engineers and whatnot. I think that is that we need to address. Response plans have to be set in order to address that. And safety as well, safety of the site workers, safety of the people that are passing by. The project manager has to have a response plan for that. And I think those are pragmatic examples. The last principle would be work consensus, which is related to stakeholder engagement. This is when it's down to, relating with the people who have a stake in the project. That can be challenging, because at the end of the day, if you don't have a relationship with the stakeholders, making decisions will be hard, it will be difficult. So it's about building a relationship, establishing trust, and that way decision-making will be much easier. I think these three principles will go a long way in determining how sustainable a project will be. So I think that's a response to that question, maybe.
Good. So you covered a lot of things. Actually, the areas that I actually wasn't looking at, but talking about project management, generally speaking, I get the fact that all of these things are interconnected. When you're talking about particular objective, which you're talking about sustainability now, which of course might not be really a major constraint, but still from a project management perspective, if you don't really review it properly to see what are the expectations of the stakeholders and all of those things, and how this also impacts cost, scope, and all of that, you actually could get yourself in trouble. So I actually get the reason why you had to go through all of that to explain this to us, which is well appreciated. I think we have a question here, though. I think maybe it'll be time for us to take question now, so that we will just taking it as it goes. Or what do you prefer? Do you prefer we take it after we've gone through?
I'm open to anything really.
So here's a question from Mohammed here. Do you have any tips on project procurement and maybe milestone plans? what are the do's and don'ts that you suggest? Is that something you want to speak to?
Well, as a project manager, I've spent most of my time having to plan and schedule. In terms of procurement, I think that is something that you learn over time. One thing is for sure is that when you're going into purchasing goods, materials for a project, there's certain parameters that you need to pay attention to, and one of those is best price. You know that it goes without saying. Every individual, every contractor, every client is looking for the best price, and if you're able to deliver on that, it makes all the difference. While taking into consideration the quality, is the quality of the product going to make a difference in the project that you're working on? Those are a few things to check: quality, best price. But most often than not, people go with best price. So at this particular point in time, I think that would be my best advice in regards
Okay.
to procurement.
So he also referenced milestone plans. I actually didn't understand that part, but I don't know. Did you get what that means? Milestone plans?
Well, I think that milestone plans would relate to, you know, the timing, because at the end of the day, when you're making a purchase, you need to take into consideration the project schedule. And if you're
Okay.
purchasing items which might not arrive on time, you might have yourself to blame, because most of the responsibility of project success lies on the project manager. So I think that in terms of milestones, you need to weigh the project schedule with the estimated time of delivery, and that will make a difference.
Okay, great. Um, okay, so I think somebody is asking some question about project management certification. So I will just go straight to a question I also had on mind. So in terms of the construction industry and project management, we know there are a lot of designations out there. And, you know, if you're new here in Canada, sometimes it could really be confusing what you go for and what really is beneficial for your career, professional development as a project manager. I've heard leads, which is LEEDS. Well, I don't really know much about it, but I've seen a lot of people that have that as their designation. Of course, PMP is quite popular, but I know there are still some other certifications out there. But can you throw some more light on these aspects?
Okay. Um, well, maybe you're absolutely right. I think one designation that we definitely need to pay attention to is the leadership in energy and environmental design certification, because that makes a huge difference. You know, even I, who has studied to be an architect, even after coming out of university and being in practice, I can tell you this: taking the lead certification exam was one of the best decisions that I ever made. And the reason why is because it was able to open my eyes to different aspects of the building, which, you know, you could actually make uh, energy efficient. And what I mean is cutting down on cost. One thing that most people don't understand is that the most expense that you will ever make on a building is in regards to HVAC. That is where most of the cost is being spent.
Oh,
And if you're
really?
able to address that, it will make a huge difference. And the leads certification allows you to understand that and see how you can integrate that into your design. You talked about the PMP, the Project Management Professional certification. That's huge too, and it's for people who have been in practice, who have been in project management, and are looking for validation and want to understand more detailed uh, part of project management. And that's what it did for me, you know, and it allows you to take your career to the next level. So I think all around the PMP is definitely a good certification, although at the same time, there's still people in the industry who are able to rise across the ranks, even though they don't have that certification. But it does make a difference, and I would definitely recommend to all those who are looking at project management as a career. Another one, which you didn't mention, is the Lean Six Sigma. I'm
Oh,
sure that maybe
yeah.
you're familiar with that. It does apply to construction, and I've started the journey to get to the black belt. I haven't gotten to the end yet, but I know that it makes a difference, because when you talk about sustainability, you talk about process, you know, and in project management, we talk about best practice, and it's about optimizing process. This certification allows you to know how to do that, which is optimizing time, optimizing cost, resources, and whatnot. I've had the opportunity of speaking to a few friends who have the black belt, and they tell me that it makes a huge difference when it comes down to it. It makes a huge difference in terms of improving process. And I think that at the end of the day, it's definitely a certification to get.
Okay.
And lastly, I think I have CPI. The CPI, that's the most recent certification that I have, which is a certified professional inspector, property inspector. And
Oh,
I'm not necessarily recommending people to, get that if you're already in construction, but I know what it's done for me. It's made a huge impact in terms of the way that I approach construction. A reason being, as an inspector, one of the responsibilities you have is to go into an existing building, look at the features of the home, and provide your own view regarding the conditions of all the building elements. And if there are problems, you state the defects, and you also provide recommendations. And this has helped me huge. Even though I wear the hat of a project manager and an architect, I can tell you this. It's given me the opportunity to understand how some of the other players think, like the HVAC. I can go into a space and I can tell you if the HVAC has been installed properly or not. I can tell you whether the electrical panels have been installed properly or not. I can look at the piping for mechanical and plumbing and tell you if it's installed properly or not. And this has helped me huge because it's allowed me to connect the dots. And I think that makes a big difference. And I would definitely recommend the CPI for anyone who wants to look at the construction industry as a whole.
yeah. So I think now that you're talking about inspection, so these will be those guys that goes into a building, like say maybe you're trying to buy a new house, they go into a building and then do all the inspection. Is that okay?
Exactly.
Oh, okay, got it. So
Exactly.
there's another. So speaking about this area now, so because now we've kind of moved away a little bit from project management, we're talking about maintenance or things of that nature now. So I'll then just like to ask a question along that line. Who has a role to play in terms of the maintenance, operation, and development of the built environment? Is it the project manager? Is it the operations manager? Is it the facility manager? And speaking about facility manager, maybe also you might want to talk about the type of certifications that are also available in terms of being a facility manager, certified facility manager.
Okay. Well, I wouldn't be able to speak so much to the certifications of facility project manager. I know of the FPM, which is a certification that facility managers have, but I don't have that.
Okay.
I work mostly as an architect and as a project manager. In terms of the responsibilities and the maintenance and operation, I think project managers, facility managers, we all have a role to play. Even you and I, we have a role to play in terms of the building maintenance and operations of our environment, the physical environment. And I think the best approach towards this question you've asked would be to look at it from a generalist perspective. Looking at it from a perspective of sustainability, of global warming, climate change, I think that would be the best approach. Because at the end of the day, there's so much that is going on. And I think that as individuals, we all can help to cut down the carbon footprint. And it starts with doing basic things like cutting down on printing. Like as a project manager right now, you are always communicating and you're always printing documents, and cutting down on printing can help a great deal. As simple as it sounds, it can make a difference in terms of reducing the carbon footprint. Things like transport, how you move from point A to point B, carpooling, getting into a car, going to work with fellow friends. It reduces the number of cars on the road. Things like using electric cars, walking, jogging, those things help. They don't only provide physical benefits, but they also help in reducing CO2 emissions, right? And cyclists too. And the list goes on. But maybe from a pragmatic standpoint, I think that looking at construction, like assuming there's construction on the site and it's encroaching on a pathway where cyclists, pedestrians move back and forth. I think the onus is on the standard by whoever you are, if you've seen that, to speak out to the city. The district council always encourage advocates people to speak out concerning anything that they feel is inappropriate. And since we're all on this quest to cut down on the carbon footprint, it's important that you let the city know that, oh, this project is encroaching on a pathway for the daily commute of cyclists and pedestrians, and it's inappropriate. And that can make a huge difference. And just simple examples like that can make, our built environment a better place to live in. So I think that we all have responsibility. So
yeah, when you were talking about jogging, exercising, I never thought of how that connects, honestly. But now when you talked about if you're building a structure and then maybe it's encroaching on the road, and there are maybe in a way even during project construction, maybe you're encroaching on the road and it doesn't allow pedestrians to move or to ride a bicycle. All of those things also kind of adds up, is what you're trying to say here. Yeah. So I got it from that example that you gave. So you're an architect by academic, right? Or did you practice as an architect, or
Yes, I did practice architecture in England, and also in Nigeria. Most of my responsibilities in Canada have been architectural related, but also mostly project management, and that has been the case. It's been an interesting ride. Just having to have practiced in both worlds. And I know it might sound a little bit conflicted, but I think that I've had an unconventional journey in having to get to where I am right now. Because in England, when I had moved to Cornwall and to practice as a project manager and as an architectural technician, my career sort of took off in that direction. At some points it was difficult, and I was beginning to wonder whether this was exactly what I wanted to do. Was I wanting to do project management and architecture at the same time, or just go architecture? But over time, I realized that this made a huge difference for me, because I've been able to wear at the heart of an architect and also the heart of a project manager, and be able to step into rooms and have that conversation. Because many times the project managers don't really understand what the architects are thinking, but having that experience allows me to speak on both ends of the table, and it's done a lot for me. And I'm just blessed and grateful that I've had the opportunity, because today I can provide those services all at the same time.
To actually put that into perspective, I worked at the Manitoba Housing at some point. So
wow.
I got the opportunity to actually work on some new construction projects and some maybe renovations. So what happens is the architects is the one who designs these buildings or designs this whatever new feature they are trying to build in a renovation, and then the project manager is supposed to actually then go on site to make that happen, right? So there is what we call constructability. I got it? Constructability. Where basically a designer, an architect designs something, but then the project manager or the construction manager is struggling with this won't work. So just to kind of give an idea as to the kind of conflict we're talking about here. Now if you were a project manager and then you are supposed to work on a site to ensure that something is built, and then you see this design as an architect, you thought, okay, so what is going on here, right? Then what position do you take in that type of a situation? Is it as an architect, or is it as a project manager? All those sort of things.
Right. Okay. So in that kind of situation, I think the best thing would be to address it from, the first thing would be to establish who created the design. And once you do that, the conversation can begin, because it's all about a conversation, right? And when it comes down to construction, it is a process, and there are stakeholders, as we mentioned before. There's a project team that has been put together. In that project team, normally, whenever any construction is taking place, would comprise of maybe a mechanical engineer, an electrical engineer, a HVAC specialist, and then you would have your architectural designer or interior designer. And whenever anything happens, the project manager has to contact these individuals. If there is a change that needs to be made, he sends it through the control board, which is essentially project team members. And then a decision is made and the changes are being implemented. And most often than not, it's done in a timely basis. So in that situation, obviously, I would probably create change notice if the project has already started, which it has. So the change notice would need to be sent to the project team members, and the architect will effect changes. So that's how it will work. Yeah.
Okay, sounds interesting. So I think at this point, I'll share a poll with those that were in attendance. I would like to get some feedback from the guys who are in attendance in terms of, what they are looking at doing in terms of these certifications you talked about, their experience, and maybe we could also tap into their experience just in case they have experience in construction management, project management in construction industry, because sometimes you never know where you could use your experience, where it doesn't matter that you are employed or not, but there could be an opportunity where you could mentor. As a mentoring group, SupplyJobs Canada, we make that opportunity available for you to be able to actually, provide some value adding, into our group, so that in that case you're able to build trust, and who knows, we could be able to refer you to whoever has opportunity for you to work with them. So that's the kind of thing we're trying to do here. You have a poll there, just help us complete it. That will be helpful for us, maybe in furthering these conversations around construction industry. I don't know, maybe you'll be the person who will bring in next time for discussion, just to have your own perspectives. That's what I'm saying. So let's see, I guess, yeah, so I'll give you 3 more minutes to have this poll completed, and then we'll move on. And also to let you guys who are on the session know that Tesla at the beginning had mentioned towards that he has a course that he's working on. Actually, he has it worked and completed already, and it's available on Udemy. If you can stay till the end of the session, Tesla is going to give some discount on that course, so that you'll be able to register for it. In that course, you even gain much more insights than you have currently on this session. And I think Udemy or issues certificates as well, right? Is that correct?
Oh, definitely. There are certificates available to all who take the course.
Yeah, and you can show that off on LinkedIn. It's part of brand building, right? Okay, so that's it. We've had 3 people so far. I believe we have about 11 people currently on this session. Can you respond here, or we move on? Okay, so I guess okay, just a second, let's see. Okay, if I can get 2 or 3 more, that'll be fine. We can go on. Okay, yeah, that's a long silence. Okay, so yeah, we will end the poll. Okay, thank you guys. I have the poll here. I'm gonna share the results with you guys. So just in case it will be of help to anyone of you to know what the certification that is of interest to people. Somebody asked a question here. Will this recording be shared? Yeah, I would work with my team to see as soon as possible how we can share this. But this is actually showing also on our YouTube. So it's also live on YouTube. I guess it's just a matter of sharing the link on YouTube with people who are in the session. That's how we'll go about it. Okay. So thanks so much so far for all the insights you've been providing. I'm enjoying it. But I think there are still some questions that we might have here. Are there any recent trends that you've noticed in your practice in construction industry that you think you'd want to have our participants to know about it, just in case this question comes up, maybe during interviews? I can remember when I went for an interview early when I came into Canada, they were asking me about something about construction contract. They were talking about contract A and contract B. I had no clue, because there was nothing like that in Nigeria. So basically, I messed up at that interview. So, for somebody, even if we are procurement people, yeah, we are project managers here, would have, it would be nice to gain that insight from you to know what trends, we have now in the industry that you'll be able to share with us.
Okay. All right. So yeah, thank you for that question. That's an interesting one. I think in the world that we live in today, there's lots that are going on. New technology, advances in different sectors. Construction is no exception. And there are many things that have been taking place recently. And I think that just thinking about it, I'll just focus on a few. First of all, I would like to talk about about BIM. I think BIM is definitely making a huge difference in our world right now. That's building information modeling, which focuses on retrieving building data and creating an environment which shows some sort of realism for clients. And in our practice, we've been working around the clock to ensure that most of the packages that we send out have 3D visualizations, which make things easier for the client. Not only for them, but also for ourselves when relating with stakeholders in the building industry. What I mean is relating with the engineers, with the electrical engineers, the mechanical engineers, because they need to know what we are creating as designers. And that makes a huge difference. And more recently, we've seen 3D move into a different level entirely, which is 4D planning services. And what that is basically for all the elements which are created on 3D model, which show for instance, the joists, the cabinetry, the walls, the lighting and whatnot, you're able to put timelines to that. And that makes a huge difference, because looking at the world we are right now, especially during the course of this pandemic, there's so many people who don't want to spend too much time on site. And BIM allows you to make sure that everything regarding the drawing is being communicated to the client. And it helps you to cut down on expenses, on cost. The construction industry is not particularly a very perfect industry, and it hasn't been the case for years. And sometimes when you're constructing, you realize that you need to have to make the error on site. But BIM allows you to establish that there is a problem on the computer, and that cuts down loads and loads of time, energy, and also saves money. So I think that's definitely a trend that we need to pay attention to.
And I think, so I just wanted to add something here. I mentioned earlier about constructability issues, that happens on the site, so this is something that you can proactively see when you use the BIM to know, okay, if there's going to be constructability issues.
Exactly. Right now in the industry, we have programs like Revit and ArchiCAD, which are being used not only by architects, but also by mechanical engineers, electrical engineers. And it's very popular in those circles because it allows you to look beyond just one particular building professional, but it allows all the interdisciplinary groups to bring together all their elements, and you can see it in one particular spot. And I think that is a huge breakthrough, to be honest. In terms of 4D planning, you have applications like Synchro Pro, Navisworks, where you can relate to those 3D models, and that makes a huge difference, trust me. So those are definitely breakthroughs. In terms of, since we're talking about stakeholders, I think SharePoint, which many of us will be familiar with, is somewhat a new trend. It allows you to, it makes the project manager's life much easier, because in the past, project managers would send emails back and forth to different stakeholders. Project manager is always dealing with different people, and having a specific location where you can just dump information makes a huge difference, because anywhere you are, as long as you're part of the team, you can get notifications and updates on the go, and that makes a huge difference. So what else? I think another thing I like to speak about is modular construction. In the wake of the pandemic and whatnot, I think that it is a time to take advantage of modular construction, prefabricated panels. And at the moment, as a practice, we're looking towards promoting some of these panels. We're about to send proposals to some organizations to promote exterior finish and insulation systems. The magnesium oxide panels are essentially structural insulated panels, and it makes a huge difference when you use them on construction. It saves time, and it's also very, very energy efficient. I don't know if you've heard of ICFs, the insulated concrete foam panels. It's being used almost all around the country right now. And even in Winnipeg, there's so many residential developments in Winnipeg who have integrated that into their construction. So I think it makes a huge difference, and it definitely helps in reducing the carbon footprint. Finally, it'll be 3D laser printing. That for me is huge. 3D laser printing, staying far off the site and being able to create products that you can use on the site by just merely sending it to the machine. I think that is definitely a big breakthrough, because there are lots of exterior finishes on buildings right now that are created through 3D laser printing. So I think it's something that we all need to pay attention to. And I think these particular trends are going to make huge impact in the market in the days to come. So there's much more, but at the moment,
yeah,
I think
I know there are also things like all this advanced, machine learning and all those stuff, but we'll leave that for another session entirely.
right.
Okay, so how about a kind of situation on the project side, because like you said earlier at the beginning of the session, we mentioned that actually project management is about communication. So, and there are always different issues, honestly speaking, from project management perspectives that leads to communication. Eventually, even no matter how technical you want to look at it, it still falls back on communication. So, how do you address issues when it concerns a team member that is lagging behind, maybe on their deliverables? How would you handle this type of situation?
As you rightfully mentioned, communication is definitely a key factor. When it comes down to team members, the onus is on the project manager to make those choices. At the beginning of a project within the construction environment, you normally have the project manager trying to organize interviews, trying to research profiles to ensure that he has the right team. And sometimes that is not necessarily the case, but the effort needs to be made to ensure that the right people with the right skill set are there. When you find out that there's a team member lagging behind, you need to go back to the drawing board, because there are two things that you must take into consideration. First of all is measuring progress. It's like a contract. At the beginning of the contract, you set out expectations and whatnot, and you need to make sure that people understand where this is going. Measuring progress means monitoring and controlling. It means being able to check on this member from time to time, and that is routine for every project. If you're a good project manager, you need to be doing that. That's part and parcel of what you do. And the second one is setting clear goals and clear expectations. As a team member, you need to be able to respond to the expectations of other team members. And that means being able to bring your deliverables on time. If you're not doing that, then there's a problem. But the onus is also on the project manager to follow up. There might be team members who might be lagging behind. There might be team members which are not delivering, but the onus is on the project manager to make sure that they follow up with these team members. And that will make all the difference, basically. So that's it.
Yeah, well, I think based on your response now, which I get, you're project managing that team member, right? You set some expectations, and then you expect that team member haven't been made aware of what their expectations are, that they're gonna, meet that expectation. But then in this particular case, they didn't meet that expectation. And I think it speaks to our management or leadership style sometimes. You've seen some situations on the side or even at the office where some leaders tend to be more of a punitive leadership style where, well, that person has to be punished for not meeting that. But I would just kind of want to have insight into what you think is a right leadership style, especially for this culture where we are, because it makes a lot of difference. I've seen a lot of people who are senior project managers from Southeast Asia maybe from Africa or from Colombia, or and then they get here, they get this job opportunity, and then they're struggling as a leader because it seems that that cultural difference is getting in the way of the ability to be able to manage a team member. Have you come across this type of situation? And in the cultural context that we are currently, which is Canada, how do you think you would handle it? What kind of leadership style do you think is most effective?
Yeah, that's an amazing question, AB. Thank you so much, because when you started talking about culture, you just took me way back. I began to think about my parents. When I was growing up in my home, in our home, and dad and mom were just they would list out clear goals, and they were very clear about the expectations, and there was just no way that I was going to compromise. They had an autocratic leadership style. And you can relate that to many other cultures. And even within the army, the men and women that wear uniform, those people who are high ranking, they normally employ the autocratic leadership approach. But the question is, I don't know if that would really, work in a construction environment here in Canada. It might work in, developing countries or different countries of the world. But here in Canada, I'm not too sure. I think over the years, working as a project manager, working as a leader, I've seen that diplomacy really makes a huge difference. Emotional intelligence, being able to be sensitive to your own self and being sensitive to the needs of others, being able to make that bridge, understanding their state, their condition, and being able to communicate with them where they are. I find that makes a huge difference. It creates an opportunity to build a relationship, to establish trust. And you and I know, being a project manager yourself, that trust makes a huge difference. And I think that once that is established, you're in a better position to allow people to understand. As I said earlier, diplomacy has worked for me many times before, which is being able to, give people the choice and to allow them to see if they can stand alongside you, as you make decisions. I think that works greatly. But at the same time, every construction project is different. So it's down to the project manager to understand what leadership style to employ, because not every project will be the same. So the onus is on you to make sure that you make the right decision. So.
Okay. Thanks so much. I mean, that kind of helped us to, get more insight into how you would approach things and what is more effective here. Projects are different from projects. Emotional intelligence is key, building trust with your team members, and, understanding, having empathy, whatever situation they are going through, to be able to know how to handle things properly. So I will go through two questions here because we're kind of timing down here. So we would like to answer these two questions, and if we still have time, we'll take another question for you. But these are coming from the participants here. Is there any future for Agile methodology in the construction industry instead of the strong focus on the traditional project management approach?
Could you repeat that again, please?
So is there a future for Agile methodology in the construction industry?
I definitely believe so, because right now, Agile is becoming more and more a part of the conversation. And it's a straightforward part of project management. I haven't really delved into that as much, but I know fully well that I have been seeing publications on Agile project management as it relates to construction. And it's definitely some research that I'm looking at the moment. So it definitely has a huge future for Agile. There's definitely a huge future for Agile project management in construction.
Great. So there you have it. I think it was Caleb that asked that question in terms of the future for Agile. Actually, Agile is something that is becoming more invasive right now in the industry. You realize that the Project Management Institute is actually updating their PM book, the Book of Knowledge for Project Management. And one of the reasons why they're doing that is because they are going to update it with a lot of Agile tech methodologies. And so they have also really realized that, that's the future. Even in procurement, we have Agile procurement now. So we have Agile procurement. So instead of when we make procurement and we go on for 6 months, 1 year, we want to be able to apply this as a specific tool in some areas. Take, for example, IT. Things goes obsolete within 6 months, and you can have a project going on for 1 year. So you have to just apply Agile, to be able to deliver. And that also became even more relevant during the COVID-19 period, where there's so much uncertainty and things have to be done like now, right? So you won't be proposing something that will take them 1 year to deliver when, things falls apart in the next few weeks, right? So I believe there probably will be some areas of construction where Agile might fit in, but maybe not in every other project. Like you said, project is different from projects, right? So there's another question there. How does one who has a PMP certification, but yet have no experience in the construction industry, breaking into the construction in any information will be helpful?
Right. Okay, so that's a very good question. Having PMP and then delving into construction. You see, most often than not, there are many employers who are looking for individuals who have experience. When I first graduated, it was a bit difficult having to get a job. Why? Because I didn't have experience. And experience normally is a big factor. You might have a PMP, but if you don't have experience, that can be a challenge. The PMI normally presents a list of designations. One of that is project coordinator. And the project coordinator role is essentially someone who doesn't have experience, So there is a possibility. There's still hope of getting a job in the construction industry, but you might have to start from the very bottom.
Yeah. Interesting. Thanks so much. Those are the questions that we have from the audience. I don't know if there's any other person who still has some questions, right? It'd be interesting to have, questions from the audience so that you can actually address some of this. I'm enjoying it. I'm having fun. I don't know about you guys, but there's still one other question here regarding stakeholders management, in that how do you actually best communicate with stakeholders? Stakeholders basically are very critical for the success of any project. So for real, you need to be able to be smart, or what other word do I use there? Because they actually are the ones who determines if your project is successful or it's not. So how do you handle stakeholders, and how best do you communicate with them?
Yeah, stakeholder engagement is a very important aspect of project management. There's no doubt about it. And the way you tackle that as a project manager will make all the difference. As a project manager, you can get caught up with communication with different people, the project team members, the client, and also stakeholders who are not necessarily very much connected to the project. What I do as an individual is that when a project is about to take off, I have a list which I put together. And that list basically shows a scale of the level of importance of that stakeholder to the project, which is the most relevant to the least relevant. And what that does to me is basically it allows me to decipher what information to share and what not to share. Because sharing information is very, very important. If you share the wrong information, it can have negative repercussions. And one must be very, 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 very careful when it comes to that. Because once the project begins to fail, they're not going to be looking at any other person. They'll be looking at the project manager, because he's responsible for the entire thing, even if he didn't make the mistake.
Yeah.
As an architect, I see that more and more, because when you design a project, depending on what it is, like for instance, if you're designing a headquarters for the army, you wouldn't be sharing the plans with someone who is living just close to the site, even though it might impact them in a particularly negative way. What you would need to do would be to contact the project manager, and the project manager would be able to start the conversation, and sometimes it can go to the extent of, organizing focus groups with stakeholders to know what the potential impact will be. That is, if it's been identified that maybe in the future there might be a problem, you start the conversation. But most often than not, you don't share information without the consent of the other project team members. That is a no-no. But one thing is for sure, the project manager must be in a position where he's able to take the right decision as to what information to share with others and what information to keep. Over the course of my experience, I find that I've only had, most often, only had to share information with the project team members and the client. And that's a safe place to be because those are the most relevant stakeholders. So my advice to anyone who is a project manager and or who is looking towards being a project manager in construction is that try as much as possible, as far as it depends on you, to share information with the project team members and the clients alone.
Okay. Thank you. Thanks so much, Tessa. I mean, it's been 1 hour already. Our time flies, right? At the beginning, Terso did promise to make an offer to those who will stay till the end of the session. So I want to believe I have the folks who are here. So how do you share this with us? So do we send that in an email to them, or do you actually get a code that you can share?
Oh yeah, definitely. For those who have stayed, by all means, if I can get your details, I'm more than happy to send you a code so that you can have a discount on the course.
Okay. So I know I have Caleb here. I have Agri. I have Deepak. You have Fatima, and then I have Nakami. Okay. I think that's about it. And then, of course, we have Nancy. So, by the way, thanks so much, Nancy, for staying. I know as a mother, it's kind of a little bit challenging, but you know what? It's all good. It's just the whatever we have to deal with, we have to deal with it and still make things happen. I think people don't appreciate women enough. So, and I'm putting out there that men get the opportunity to just do. Nobody holds them back. But then, if your baby is crying, then I mean, imagine that person is the one who has the baby on him. I don't know how we could have been able to have the interview. So I really appreciate women a lot. They're very great multitasker and they're very good at that. So
thank you.
Nice to have you.
My pleasure.
Okay then, guys, that's it. We would share the link to the YouTube, and also along with that, we'll provide the discount code from Terso. And yeah, that's it for us for the construction industry exploration with the project manager. Our guest speaker today we had was Terso Tieve, and we had Nancy providing support at the back end. Thanks so much, guys. I will be looking to schedule something again for the construction industry as well, because we'll be exploring quite a lot of people and different angles to this construction industry. So you are well equipped, especially if you're somebody who are trying to make entrance in the construction industry. But more so the networking aspects of it. By the way, if you are here, you attended this session, I mean, it's no brainer that you have to connect with Tersu. I mean, if you don't do that, what's the point of this session? So look out for Tersu on LinkedIn. Let him know that you were a participant here on this session and then you'd like to connect with him for more insight. I mean, Tersu, thanks so much for the opportunity to have you here. So we'll reach out to you guys. Within the course of 1 week, we should be able to provide those details about the course, the discount, and also the video, the recording for this session. Thanks so much, guys, and nice to have you here today.
Right. Thank you.
Yeah, have a great week.
All right. Thanks. Thank you.
Bye for now.
Thank you.